All right, I have Erin McCormick, certified athletic trainer, in the room with me today. I'm really excited to talk about this topic. It's quite new aged, and there's quite a bit of research behind it. And we're really coining this think twice before you ice. Most injuries, right? We smack an ice pack on them, and there's a method called the peace and love method that we're going to talk about today. So, Erin, fill us in on just a little bit of the research maybe behind this, or where you came across this and why we need to think twice before we ice our kids.
Sure. Yeah. Thinking twice before we ice is going to be a good thing that hopefully sticks in a lot of people's heads. But a couple of years ago, a colleague of mine shared this book. It's called Iced, with an exclamation point at the end of it, by Gary Reinold. And he started in like the MLB world of trying to get pitchers specifically off of icing their arm after games. And in the book, I mean, it's a short book, so if anybody's interested, I would go and grab it off of Amazon and read it. But he talks about how like he just started to be like, oh, go do a bunch of other things before we give you your ice. And it led to them forgetting their routine of icing. And I mean, he had all of his scientific evidence behind it, but he got pitchers off of icing their arm afterwards, and the recovery times and all that kind of stuff went up, and it has just become this new thing that people are moving towards, of not icing injuries. So the new thing, so RICE, rest, ice, compression, elevation, has been something people have done for, I don't know, as long as we can remember, type of thing. And it's just the easy thing to do, like grab a bag of ice when something hurts and put it on and hope it feels better. But we're not actually doing anything for the injury when we're putting a bag of ice on it. So people think that that bag of ice is going to stop something from swelling, but swelling is not always bad. Like swelling is something our body does naturally within 8 seconds after an injury occurs. So as soon as something bad happens in your body is already going into like repair phase. And here we are thinking we can put a bag of ice on it from the outside and stop our body's natural process, or make our body's natural process better. But like our bodies know what to do. So getting inflammation in an area isn't always bad. Now, if inflammation stays for days or weeks, that's when we start to have issues, because you do want that inflammation to come in, do what it needs to do, and then it needs to leave the area. If it hangs out for too long, overstays its welcome, it's not a good thing. So, you know, we need to do things to get that inflammation out, but something that's better than ice is like your movement and a pumping system that our body, again, already does. But if we can kind of help that pump system along, it's a little bit better for our recovery. So the peace and love way of approaching an injury is you start with peace right after an injury. So it's PEACE. So the P is protection. So you want to protect the injured site. So, you know, you go down with an ankle sprain, maybe we don't pop right up and walk off the field, and you have a little help, you know, from teammates, coaches, athletic trainers to help you off. So we're protecting the area first until we know what is wrong with it. Then we're going to go on to elevation. So the higher you can get a body part, the better for your body's pump system. So, you know, sometimes people think just putting their feet up on the coffee table is high enough, but that's really not it. Your feet, your ankle needs to be above your heart. So one of the things I always have told my athletes to do is like lay on the floor, scoot your butt as close to the wall as you possibly can, and get your feet straight up the wall. So that's going to be your super elevation type of thing. And even if you don't have an injury, this is just a good thing to do to kind of like drain your lower legs from any inflammation buildup. It's going to help your lymphatic system drain all of that out, because again, we want things to go back into the body. So elevating as high as possible is a good thing. Now that gets a little bit harder with like a hand or an elbow. Like you're not going to walk around like this, but the more you can elevate something, the better you're going to be. The A in the peace and love is avoid NSAIDs. So again, your body is already doing this recovery process. So us doing something on the outside or us doing something on our own isn't necessarily going to help. Like, sure, we think anti-inflammatories are going to do just that, do anti-inflammation, but it takes a little bit for those things to work. Like, you can't just take one Advil and think that it's going to work in your body. Like, there's a buildup that needs to happen, and you need to take it regularly. You need to take it for a few days. And sometimes, you can't do that. You have stomach issues, all the things. So just avoid it to begin with and do the other things like the elevation and pumping system instead of the anti-inflammatories. The C is going to be compression. So compressing an area and helping it again with that pumping system is going to be something that works. Now, just using like a compression sleeve type of thing maybe isn't always the answer, because as an athletic trainer, to compress an area, you need to wrap it and like you start tighter at the top and looser at the bottom to again help that pumping system get things back up. So like when you wrap an ankle, say in an ACE wrap, you want to be tighter when you go around the foot and then looser as you get up the leg to help push that fluid back up into the body. And then education, that's where your medical professionals come into hand. An athletic trainer who knows about peace and love or how to treat an injury like this is somebody who is going to be able to give you that information. So I like to teach people as much as I possibly can about injuries and how to treat things. So giving that education piece is going to help people understand how to do it and the right way to do it. So I would teach athletes how to compress an ankle the proper way so that when they go home, they could take that ACE wrap off, take a shower, and then put it back on and be confident in the way that they did it because I have taught them how to do it. So that's the peace portion. And that is what you're going to do right in the beginning. Then you're going to move on to the love, which is a few days after an injury. You're going to move to the L, which is a load. So load is starting to get that weight back on an area. If it was an ankle sprain, we're going to start to walk again. We're going to work on our gait patterns. We're going to work on our movement patterns and make sure that we are able to walk before we run type of thing. So we want to get the proper loads onto that ankle so that we can move forward. The next is you want to optimize it. So we're talking about confident, positive in your recovery, positive in the ankle. Like, we want to have happy thoughts basically about getting things back into motion. So a lot of times with injuries, athletes are afraid to go back to doing what they did before, or like, oh, the last time I ran the bases, I stepped on the base wrong and I sprained my ankle. So now they're afraid to do that. So that's where we want to optimize this confidence and build this positive reinforcement type of thing with the injury so that we can move past that and run the bases confidently and not get injured again. The V is vascularization. So we want to increase our blood flow. Increasing the blood flow comes from a multitude of things. We can do reps and sets of certain exercises. We can start doing our cardiovascular fitness, and we can run, we can swim, we can bike. But increasing that blood flow to the area is going to help those tissues repair even more. And then the final stage is exercise. So basically just getting back to what you were doing before. So, getting back on the field, getting back on the court, getting back into the pool, whatever it was, we want to make sure we're doing that safely and effectively so that we can return to play and not be sidelined, a week later with the same type of injury. So peace and love is the more extensive and personally, I think, better way to return an athlete from an injury than just icing and kind of waiting it out thing.
Yeah. I actually really love this method and model. It for me, and I think a lot of the coaches out there listening in who take more of a holistic approach to their athletes, it really encompasses everything from the education piece to the mindset piece that you spoke about. Injury and coming back from injury is very multifaceted, and it's not as easy as slapping ice on an injury and popping a bit of medication to try to get through the pain. And when we treat it as it is that easy, our athletes pay much longer down the road. There's a ripple effect. So really, really enjoyed you sharing that. And, one thing you mentioned along the way was the education piece. And that's exactly why we at the IYCA developed the athletic trainer consultant program, because we know that not everybody has access to this insight. They don't have access to trainers in their school or athletic trainers on their travel sports teams. So what do you think is the benefit, Erin, for someone to have someone like you come alongside them on their sports teams or in the school setting or even at their facility or gym?
Yeah. So, I mean, just for this type of reason, like if you don't know this and you're just going off of something that's been going on, I think the Rice method was developed in like the 60s or the 70s. And the doctor who actually developed it in recent years has come back and like taken it back type of thing. Like, oh, maybe this isn't the best way to do it. But if you're somebody who's not in this world or interested in this topic or something like that, you're not going to know that. So that's where I come in to teach you that. Like, I'll never forget a couple of years ago, my niece, she's now 16. I don't know, she was maybe like 9 or 10. I had just taught her this because I had just learned it. So I wanted to share my knowledge with the youth that are coming up type of thing. And she went outside in the yard and was playing soccer and rolled over on her ankle. Tears, comes in and she's like, I just rolled my ankle. What do I do? And I was like, oh, do you want some ice? Because it's my niece and she's crying and she's hurt. She's like, but you told me not to use ice. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I've taught you too well type of thing, that she was afraid to put ice on it because I had just explained to her about how ice wasn't the best way to like treat an injury. But I mean, we sat down, we talked it out. I helped her. I think we did end up putting a little ice on it so she can like calm down and relax. But that's like just the thing I'm talking about. Like, I can educate you, but then when it actually comes to it, you're in this pain and you don't know what to do. You just want to put ice on it and forget about it type of thing. So I was there to help her calm down and relax and understand that we could still put a little bit of ice on it to get you to calm down and relax. And then we can go ahead and move forward and treat the actual injury. So just having somebody in your back pocket, literally, that you can reach out to and be like, hey, listen, this is what just happened. This is what it looks like. I used to get pictures of injuries all the time. Like, hey, this is what my ankle looks like. This is what my knee looks like. What do I do? And I've become pretty good at like assessing a photo and being like, all right, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And then I can come up with your little program to do within the next like 3 to 5 days to help you get back onto the field, because it's more about treating your body, treating the injury, and understanding and listening to yourself to be able to, treat these ankle sprains, treat a knee injury, treat an arm thing. But making sure you're doing it the proper way with the proper coaching and exercises and stuff like that. So having somebody who can kind of like walk you through it is always a good resource to have, so that you know that you're doing things properly and correctly. And then checking in with somebody like, hey, I started to try to run, but it really hurt when I did this. What should I do now? And somebody with a medical background can help you understand, like, okay, well, it probably hurt because of this. So let's take a step back. Let's focus on, some more strengthening stuff before we go on to exercise. But again, if you don't have somebody to bounce those ideas off of, you're not going to know, and you might just jump back too soon. And then you're out for another few weeks because we didn't fully recover from that first injury. So it's always good to have an athletic trainer, to have a medical professional that you can reach out to and discuss, the proper pathways to get back safely and effectively.
Yeah, so true. And I think you mentioned something so key. Unless it's your passion,
Mhm.
this doesn't have to be your wheelhouse. But
Right.
if you value healthy, strong, confident athletes, we must prioritize their well-being in this way, especially in recovery. Even when they're on the bench, that is the
Mhm.
most important time for them to have support and encouragement. But it doesn't always have to be the coach, because that coach wears so many hats,
Mhm.
and being able to outsource is a game changer. And I can vouch for that 100%. So thank you, Erin, again, for all of your knowledge and insight and expertise. If you are tuning in and listening, please drop your biggest takeaway from this session in the comments, or send them to us in an email. We would love to hear from you and what you took from this conversation with Miss Erin McCormick, certified athletic trainer.